So starting this week, retro games and consoles will start appearing on the EB Games website and in certain select stores. So why is EB Games suddenly getting into retro games when it's something it has historically shied away from? Pre-owned games, the discs and cartridges that customers trade in for cash or store credit, have been a load-bearing pillar of EB's business for as long as it's been around. The reason EB and its parent company GameStop love pre-owned so much is that because every time you trade in a game, that individual copy becomes its property. This means it keeps 100% of the revenue on every pre-owned game it sells. And its strategy around acquiring and then selling its pre-owned stock is well known. It buys low and it sells high. The problem that EB Games now faces is that increasingly the video games industry is showing a preference for digital games over physical media. Part of this is to cut retailers like GameSpot out, but it's also a move to assert control over increasingly large and valuable libraries of IP. For example, if you bought a digital game for your PlayStation, chances are it came from the PlayStation Store. Sony controls every part of that ecosystem. It sets the prices, it dictates what goes up on the store and what doesn't, and it controls the licenses that are bound to your account, any of which can be revoked at any time for any reason. External retailers like EB Games are locked out, while users are functionally locked in. That's both by design and also nothing new. It's what's called a walled garden, which is a time-honored business practice favored by the tech and games industries, and they've been doing it for years. And this is a big problem for EB Games, which has spent the better part of the last decade looking for different ways to try and stave off the inevitable decline of pre-owned. It's tried merchandise, it's tried collectibles and accessories and peripherals, it's tried loyalty programs and subscriptions, and none of it seems to have been as popular or as successful as pre-owned. On top of this, it faces fierce retail competition and the knowledge that GameStop has been slowly but surely closing down its international operations in a bid to cut costs. With its back against the proverbial wall, EB Games has little choice but to double down on pre-owned. And to play devil's advocate for just a second, I can see why a business plan like this might appeal to EB Games. If the goal is to create a new and exciting inventory of pre-owned games, then retro is a good way to do that. It would be very fertile ground. It could trade on nostalgia and apply its buy low, sell high methodology to classic games that people would really love to own a copy of. And if it works, it could be transformative for EB Games, taking it from a company that deals in the newest and the latest and the greatest to a company that deals solely in nostalgia. The punter's perspective, however, may not be quite so rosy. The resale market for retro games is already wildly overinflated, and prices that are already sky high certainly won't be helped by a major global retailer carving through the space like a prospector looking for gold. It also raises a number of questions about preservation. Could certain preservation efforts be stymied because of a race between GameStop and high-profile collectors trying to hoover up as many copies of particularly valuable games as possible? The broader ramifications could be much more bleak. And then there's the question EB Games mightn't want to answer. What happens if it can't make this work and the retro games gamble fails? What would it do with all the retro stock it bought? And what could that mean for the already fraught future of physical media?